Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Forever Broken 2.0 podcast. Tonight, with me as always, is Mr. Gabriel Brew, and this is myself, Derek Thompson. Tonight, we'll be diving into another fun-filled story that I have not heard, and for everyone's sake, it should work out pretty well. It's going to be a long one. It's going to be a two-parter, from my understanding. And that being said, I'm going to kick it over to the man, the myth, the Ratchet, Gabriel.
Ratchet now?
Hell yeah. I can't do the same thing. Can't call you man, myth, legend every time. That's just too much.
Well, consistency's key,
Yeah, it's about being different every now and then. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, switch it up. I can't just do the same thing. I'm just sitting here rocking my new pink gaming chair, dude.
I like your little pillow on the top of that. That's pretty
I got a
sick.
pillow on the top and the bottom. On the bottom one, we'll do like a back massage. It's pretty sweet.
Feel like hemorrhoids?
Yeah, that's pretty great. It's like a butt pillow.
Mm. Like one of them, yeah, like a hormone or a hormone. A hemorrhoid one.
Yeah, but if you put this pillow in the right spot, you'll make a hormone.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying. And you turn the massager. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna lock in.
We're gonna lock in on this one maybe eventually, sooner or later.
So, we're gonna be talking about the ghost of Highway 20. Not familiar?
The ghost of Highway 20. I didn't know where Highway 20 is.
Oregon.
Oregon.
Oregon. It's not ghost, it's ghosts. There's more than one.
Ghostist.
More than one.
Plural.
Yeah.
Fucking English.
So to kick this off, I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction. A quick, this is what we're getting into. I have a brief warning that I'm going to throw out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to get right into it. Are we ready?
Keep all hands and vehicles inside.
All hands and arms inside the vehicle.
Yes, and inside the vehicle at all times. Keep all vehicles inside your hands and arms at all times, yes.
Yeah, those things.
Yep.
All right. My eyes just went blurry. Hold on.
It's like you can't see or something.
I can't. Give it a bit.
I wonder if it's contacts or something. I don't know.
They help me see.
Allegedly.
Well, I need a new prescription, so they're a little bit fucked, but
yeah, that's usually how it goes, though. It's just doctors and science and shit.
Yeah.
You need more water.
That's all I've been drinking is water.
That's what they say, It's probably not that you got bad vision, you're just dehydrated.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like when my blood sugar drops and they're like, just eat more. And it's like,
yeah, just drink more water. You'll be all right. It's like Marine Corps, Have you tried Motrin and water? Have you changed your socks?
There it is.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Okay, I'm going to get into this, brother.
Oh, yeah, brother.
A time frame spanning over 2 decades. 4 women disappeared and another one was raped off of the same stretch of highway in rural Oregon.
Yeah,
Their stories.
Rural.
Rural.
Date irrelevant.
Doesn't matter. Their stories have one connection.
One.
The same man is linked to all 5 crimes.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they're all women.
I mean, that would be another connection.
And technically, so two connections.
Well, I messed that up, and I wasn't going to go back and correct myself because you give me a hard time. What my sentence actually said was, their stories have a connection. One man is linked to all 5 crimes.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I'm with you. I would never razz you about that. What are you talking about?
You get fucked, you always do. Being so fucking for real right now.
Okay. I can't think of 10 times that I've done that.
I can. You can go back and listen from episode 1 all the way till today, and it's at least once in every fucking episode.
Maybe one.
I can't help it. I have dyslexia.
Me too. It's all right. As we
Exactly.
noticed with the keep your vehicles inside the hands and arms at all times.
You got it. All right, brother. Trigger warning. This story includes details of rape. If you have experienced sexual violence and need support, contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1 800 656 HOPE or text 64673. Other resources can be found at rain.org, RAINN.org, and you click on the Help and Healing Hotline link, and it will direct you to a live chat.
It's just a good reference there. I'm glad you throw that in there. You know,
Thank you. I did
looking
some
out for the
research.
people.
I did some research, and getting into this, there's some details that would definitely cause some.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of communities have rape and domestic abuse,
Yeah, yeah,
facilities. Make sure that you're in touch with them if you need them, and genuinely take care of yourself.
yeah,
If you need help, don't be afraid to speak.
exactly. So even though we laugh and we joke, we do take this serious, and we want you to get the help that you need.
Now back
So
to jokes.
back to the story. Um, Kay Turner vanished 48 years ago while running along an empty road in a rustic Central Oregon retreat. She was kidnapped and killed. Her remains dumped in the deep of the woods. 12 years later, Rashonda Pickle went missing from the desolate highway compound where she lived, never to be seen again. She was 13. 2 years later, after Rashonda goes missing, teenagers Melissa Sanders and Sheila Swanson disappeared from a camping trip to the coast. Holy fuck. Their
You're
bodies
kidding
were,
us.
dude, I am wound up like a fucking top. I got,
Yeah, we can wind you a little tighter. There's always room for that.
dude, I got zero fucking sleep, and I've been staring at words all day long.
It's good. It's good for you.
They disappeared from a camping trip to the coast. Their bodies were found off of a logging spur. It now appears their killer was the same man. The breadth of his crimes were never revealed until just before his death in 2016. John Arthur Ackroyd was a longtime state highway mechanic whose route along US 20 stretches through some of Oregon's most spectacular scenery from the Cascade foothills to the Pacific coast. From the outside, Ackroyd seemed to lead an ordinary life. Raised in a small town Oregon, was a hunter and a fisher, held a steady job, and married a woman with a couple of kids. Young kids. But detectives long suspected Ackroyd preyed on women who disappeared during or around Highway 20, disappeared around or along Highway 20 from the late 1970s to the early 1990s. They could prove only a single case, Turner's 1978 murder. The rest haunted investigators who had pursued him through the years.
A wild freaking thought that they can only pin one.
Well, yeah, they only had the evidence to which I don't know. We talk about this all the time, dog, but it just goes to like our justice system, like
The judicial system works so well.
how terrible it is set up and so easy to manipulate and be able to make it to where like you're the people who have all the evidence against you, they can find a way to like get that evidence removed so it can't be
Oh
used
yeah.
against you. Like, dude, it's so wild. I don't know. I have a
Oh
hard
yeah. It
time.
happens all the time. But
I have
we're
a
not
hard
going to
time
go
with it.
down that.
No, that's a different story for a different day for a different.
Yeah. It's a different hate story, hate speech. We'll release that with our manifestos.
Yeah, it'll be in the diaries of Gabe and Derek.
Be the next great manifesto.
I'm so dumb. Anyway, they were still after him when Aykroyd died alone in his prison cell 10 years ago. Key witnesses were interviewed and reviewed thousands of pages of police and court records, some of them previously secret, to hold Aykroyd accountable and give some measure of justice to the women he attacked. Let's go back to 1977 when Aykroyd picked up a woman from the side of the road, dragged her into the woods, and raped her. The young mother managed to survive. She was the first known victim and his only survivor. And had police believed her, she might have been the last. Marlene Gabrielson.
What? Nah, I think my little logo just fell off the wall. Don't
Oh,
mind me.
it sounded like it was right behind me.
It's right behind me. Thank you
That's
very much.
hell yeah, brother.
Have you know I did not flinch.
No, you were pretty solid on that. All right. So it was Marlene Gabrielson's first night away from her baby girl. She hadn't been out since her daughter was born 3 months earlier. It was late spring. She and her husband planned to spend the night at the sisters' rodeo. Marlene found a friend to care for their baby. That day, she had tied her hair back and pulled on her green Levi's and wore the buckskin boots her husband bought her, even though the couple could not afford it. Or them. Before leaving, she whispered to her daughter, who was asleep in her bassinet, "Mommy loves you so much, be a good girl." The couple drove about 90 miles from their home in Lebanon and set up camp near the rodeo grounds. They sat around the fire drinking beer. Later that night, Marlene and her husband argued when he said he wanted to head off with a couple of his friends. Marlene was 20 at the time, got up to leave, and she wanted to go home to her baby. It was dark, right around midnight. She was looking for a ride and wandered out of the campground onto Highway 20. The route, route that leads through the heart of Sisters. Back then, little more than a dusty outpost amid pine forest in central Oregon. She returned to the campground where a stranger said his buddy, John Aykroyd, could give her a lift. Marlene has hitchhiked plenty and didn't think twice as she squeezed into the front seat between the two men. As the truck drove west, the man in the passenger seat wanted out. Marlene, dizzy from drinking, watched as he reached through the open window to unlatch the door from the outside. He rolled up the window and slammed the door shut. Marlene noticed a 22 caliber rifle on a rack in the cab and a hunting knife stuck into the lid of a coffee can near the driver's seat. She was alone with Aykroyd, a big man who reeked of sweat and freshly cut wood. A thought skittered across her mind as she drifted to sleep. The inside door handle was gone. She was trapped. Marlene was still asleep about an hour into the ride. Aykroyd turned off the highway and onto an old wagon road. She woke up to find his fingers squeezing tight around her legs as he drug her from the truck. Her head slammed into the doorframe. She felt the cold blade of Aykroyd's hunting knife against her neck. "You're going to do what I tell you," Aykroyd said, speaking for the first time, his low, raspy voice laced with a bit of drawl. He ripped off her jeans with such force that her pants split from the waist to the ankle along the inseam. He sliced off her boots and her underwear and then threw her to the ground. After the rape, Aykroyd slapped his knife against his grimy jeans held up by orange suspenders. As Marlene slowly stood, wearing only her t-shirt and jacket, Aykroyd said, "I'm not sure what to do with you." "You could take me home," she answered. "I don't know if I want to do that," he said. "I have a baby that's not even a year old. Please take me home." Aykroyd considered her request for a long moment, and then reached into the back of the truck and held out a dingy pair of plaid pants. Marlene put them on, holding tight to the waist to keep them from falling off. They climbed back into the truck and continued west on Highway 20. She made a brief stop at the house he shared with his mother in Sweet Home, his hometown. He went inside to get a soda and used the bathroom. Marlene waited in the truck, afraid to move, and she'd need evidence so the police could find Aykroyd later. Her thought when she realized that she couldn't see the house number from the truck. When he returned, she asked for his phone number to further identify him, but also to make him think that she liked him. She wrote it down on a pack of cigarettes. Aykroyd asked, "Maybe we can see each other again?"
Maybe not.
Well, who knows?
Just probably fuck that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I get where she's at, trying to like,
Yeah, no, they have the wherewithal to think like maybe I can get this guy, and get more information and all that jazz on. I mean, it's quite the wherewithal given everything that's happened. I mean, it's incredible, honestly.
mm, it's a smart thinking on her part to, like I guess they call it like befriending your attacker so that you seem less threatening and have a better chance to survive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, moving on.
As we move forward
As
in
we
the
move
story.
as we move forward. He drove another 12 miles down the road and stopped in front of her mother-in-law's house in Lebanon, where she had asked him to drop her off. Marlene flew out of the pickup, a blur moving towards the house. He drove off as she started to bang frantically on her mother-in-law's door. As she clung onto her boots, which she had grabbed from the clearing, her hair was matted full of sticks and dirt. Her mother-in-law answered the door and yelled, "Oh my God, what happened?" "Call the police," is all that Marlene could say. Aykroyd later told police, when questioned, that Marlene had seduced him in the front seat of his dirty truck. He said he gave her a pair of pants because she had torn hers while taking them off. His mother told a detective that she'd peeked out the window that night and seen Marlene in the front seat of her son's truck. She said that her son was shy around women. The other man in the truck told police that Aykroyd wasn't the violent type and that the woman was drunk. Investigators talked to Marlene's mother-in-law too. She recalled how Marlene had arrived at her house, sobbing, saying that something terrible had happened. Marlene gave police a brown paper bag with the clothes Marlene wore on the night of the attack. While at the hospital, an officer noted scratches on Marlene's back. A doctor identified bruising on her back, legs, and knees, but still police seemed skeptical. Marlene and Aykroyd agreed to be polygraphed. A couple of weeks later, Marlene was sat in the back of a unmarked police car as two officers drove her to the lie detector test. They led her into a small room with only a desk and two chairs. An examiner asked a series of questions. These are the questions.
I was hoping that was coming, to be right honest with you. I didn't know if you'd have the questions. I was dying of anticipation.
Yeah, I bet you were.
Yeah, fucking speaking of questions, got a
All
question
right.
for you.
What's the question?
Yeah, why the fuck didn't they have? How they not have evidence when they have the fucking clothes and all the bruising? And what were they doing? Like, how do you? I don't understand how you sit there and look past that. I guess,
They didn't say they didn't have the evidence. They said that they were skeptical even with evidence.
which is just crazy to me.
Yeah, the system failed Marlene.
It did.
Are you ready for
And,
these fucking questions that they asked?
well, I guess.
This is the great detective work that was done on this investigation.
Yeah, this ought to be rich. Let me fucking tell you.
Question 1. Did you tell the truth about being raped? Question number 2. Do you feel like you got raped? Question 3. Is there a question that you're afraid to answer? After she answered, a sergeant's conclusion went into a typed report, which was placed into a file. Marlene was lying. He offered no explanation. Yeah, that was their investigation into her story. You ready for
Just
the?
fucking real detective work, you
Yeah,
know.
they were
What
they.
was she wear? What were you wearing at the time?
What color was the sky?
Yeah.
Um, Cops asked Aykroyd 4 questions. You ready for these?
I don't know that I am, but yeah, let's go for it.
Cops asked Aykroyd 4 questions. Question number 1. Did the girl ask you to pull over and have some fun? His answer, yes. He was asked 3 more questions. Did you force her to have sex at knife point? Did you have a knife in your hand when you had sex? Did you tear off her bra? He answered no to all 3 of those questions.
And they came in with a resounding, "You're free to go, sir. Thank you very much for stopping in."
The polygraph examiner determined there was no deception detected. What followed
Like I
likely,
said, you're free to go, sir.
yeah, free to go. What followed later, what followed likely altered the path of Aykroyd's life, along with those of at least 5 young women and everyone who loved them. The district attorney delivered his decision on whether to prosecute. It was a single handwritten sentence. Aykroyd would face no charges.
Fucking believable.
Over 2 years later, another set of investigators went looking for the police report detailing Marlene's accounts. A state police sergeant and a lieutenant from a local sheriff's office tracked down Marlene at home. She recounted the attack in detail, how the man cut off her underwear and boots. She'd hung on to the damaged boots and showed them to the men. The investigators left. They noted in the report how the original officers had failed to pursue the rape case even though physical evidence corroborated Marlene's account. But the rape allegation wasn't their priority that day. They were investigating the killing of a young woman on an isolated stretch of road outside of Sisters. The area was about a half-hour drive from where Marlene was raped. Main suspect? John Aykroyd.
Damn, I thought you were gonna change it up, say Dan Aykroyd this time.
No, it's still John.
Damn it, son of a bitch. I was hoping for a conspiracy theory out of this.
Yeah. So let's go to Kay Turner. Kay Turner threw on a t-shirt, long sleeve pullover, and yellow shorts, then laced up her Nikes. She stepped into the sunshine. The frosty air. Was that you?
Was that you?
I know it was you because I know it wasn't me. Can you hear that? All right, I'm continuing on. If you're gonna stare at me like a fucking Mario brother.
It's me, Mario.
She stepped into the sunshine. The frost, the frosty air heavy with the scent of ponderosa pine. It was the day before Christmas. She planned an 8-mile run. She'd be back in an hour in time for breakfast. Kay and husband Noel had joined friends on a holiday getaway at Camp Sherman, a vacation and fly fishing retreat along the pristine Metolius River off Highway 20 with a country store, a 200 year-round resident, and 200 year-round residents. The friends shared a meal the night before. The Turners lived in Eugene, where Kay, who was 35, had worked at Planned Parenthood and later as a manager at a local public health agency. Raised in Southern Oregon, she was an only child who remained close to her parents and had recently returned from visiting before she had left. She had slipped into her father's workshop in the garage, writing, "Hi, Dad, I love you, Kay," in neat cursive on a yellow legal pad for him to find later. Early in the year, she'd finished a marathon, ran 2 half marathons, and climbed Mount Washington and Three Finger Jack. She talked about her plans to run in Camp Sherman, inviting a friend to join her that morning. The woman declined. Kay headed out alone, her feet pounding a 2-lane camp road tinged red from the volcanic ash. She hadn't been out long when a state highway worker named Thomas Hanna spotted her, running south, alone. Hanna was returning to his place in Camp Sherman after working the night shift. He saw another highway worker driving through Camp Sherman that morning. That highway worker was John Aykroyd. By 10 a.m., Kay hadn't returned from her run. Noel Turner, her husband, drove through Camp Sherman to look for his wife, finding no sign of her. He panicked and called police. The memory of an infamous crime 1 year earlier was still fresh in Central Oregon. A stranger had driven his pickup over 2 young women as they'd slept at Klein Falls State Park, less than an hour southeast of Camp Sherman. Armed with an axe or a hatchet, he attacked the women, both students at Yale University. They were critically wounded but survived. No one was ever charged. Now, a woman had gone missing, triggering a massive search that made headlines clear up to Portland. Husband fears kidnap. Turner searchers losing hope was one of the captions in the Oregonian 4 days later. Aykroyd's name emerged early on. Hannah told police he'd seen both the highway worker and the runner in Camp Sherman that morning. Aykroyd had indeed come across Kay, but didn't go to the police, even though he saw posters with her pictures at the nearby Santiam Junction Highway compound where he lived. He mentioned it only after a pair of state police troopers approached him a couple of weeks later. The 29-year-old... Huh?
Imagine that, but not saying anything about having to talk to a girl or seeing that girl. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like this whole thing, the more you get into this, the more you're just like how everything completely failed until like the late 20, like literally late 20, like 16, dude.
That's fucking unbelievable.
And this shit was 1977, 1978 was when it all started, right?
Good Lord.
Knowingly started.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The then 29-year-old Aykroyd had worked for the highway department for nearly a year. Wow, I skipped a whole sentence. He was raised in Sweet Home, a modest logging town along Highway 20. He was the only son of an office worker at the local police department and a maintenance man. He was the middle child between 2 sisters. Aykroyd earned low grades in school. His high school diploma was marked special education. He was a loner, bullied, and beaten by classmates. Accused of felony theft as a teen, he opted to enlist in the army and was stationed in Korea, Thailand, and Germany, where he worked as a mechanic. Overseas, he was investigated for selling marijuana and going AWOL. He was caught trying to steal equipment and supplies. He showed
And
signs of
just that he was not bullied hard enough.
No, clearly not.
Apparently they did not do their job.
No, they did not bully to their fullest potential.
which is sad.
Do
They
better.
could have saved. They could have saved lives.
Do better. Okay. He showed signs of a disturbing mind. An acquaintance told a detective how he had once watched in horror as Aykroyd, then a young man, hacked up puppies using a machete, saying that the dogs were his and nobody else could have them. Aykroyd would also drive the backwoods, shooting squirrels and cutting off their tails. Once he was home from the army, he got a state job where he earned generally positive reviews, though supervisors noted his occasional laziness and frequent time off. His work meant long hours alone on Highway 20, the route that bisects Oregon from east to west. His stretch of it twisted through Bend, a few logging towns, Corvallis, and onto the coast. Ackroyd would have traveled along the South Santiam River, rushing alongside the highway as he headed west out of Sweet Home. He knew how to navigate the hills and hairpin turns, demonstrating a vast knowledge of the area along that stretch of highway. Ackroyd knew, too, the dirt spurs that led off the highway into the forest. It was on one of them that he raped Marlene Gabrielson a year before Kay Turner disappeared. Aykroyd's first statement to investigators on the Turner case was sparse. He was based in Santiam Junction, about 25 miles from Camp Sherman, and said he'd gotten off work around 6:30 a.m. A while later, he drove through the camp, planning to hunt coyotes, confirming to police that he had seen the and passed by the runner. Detectives didn't dwell on the highway worker. Instead, they focused on Kay's husband and possible ties between Kay's disappearance and extramarital relationships that she was having with two other men at the time. Her calendar at work noted recent meetups with these men. The day after Christmas, experienced trackers who had joined the search made a disturbing discovery in a clearing near the area where Aykroyd saw Kay. The trackers noticed two sets of footprints preserved in the frozen ground. One resembled a waffle shoe, which matched the soles of Kay's Nikes. They mingled with one another. They mingled with another set that belonged to what appeared to be a large man. The markings indicated a scuffle. The larger person had drugged the smaller person away. Local police didn't put much stock into the accuracy of the tracker's findings. The men were told to drop it.
Tell you what else is fucking large, man. Your fucking tablet in front of your face, bro.
I have to see it to read it, brother.
I'm just saying, lift up your camera a little bit, bro.
If I lift it, it goes angled and it just angles up. That fucker is mounted where it is
You look,
mounted.
you look like goddamn what's his bucket from Home Improvement. It's just this right now.
Fuck you.
Howdy ho, neighborino, you know.
You know what's fucking large? Your fucking mouth. Jesus. I'm sorry, I'm blind.
Someone's got to do it.
I will hold it flat for you.
I was just for, viewer etiquette,
And a little breakup and some sadness.
Yeah, viewer etiquette, and then, yeah, maybe break up not being goddamn horrified for 10 seconds.
Or maybe it was viewer etiquette because this is the better half of me.
Just hiding the ugly part.
Fuck you. All right. Carry on.
As we were.
Thank you for helping me with my camera etiquette.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you so much.
I'm here for you, buddy.
Thank you. Now we can carry on. 8 months later, in August, Ackroyd walked into the Camp Sherman store. He was anxious and beaded with sweat, and even though the afternoon heat had faded, I'm gonna try that again. He was
Try it as many
anxious,
times as you want, really. I mean, we got fucking all day.
brother. We're gonna need all day. 8 months later, in August, Ackroyd walked into the Camp Sherman store. He was anxious and beaded with sweat, even though the afternoon heat had faded. The shopkeeper, Christine Weston, recognized him. He'd stopped by a half a dozen times since Kay had gone missing. One of those visits stood out. She recalls seeing him fondling himself while looking at We, an explicit men's magazine sold at that store. Disgusted, Weston went to find her husband, but Aykroyd was gone by the time they had come to
So
confront.
what, he was just hanging out in the store and he was
Like, so what's up, baby?
like, that's what happened.
No. He was in the magazine area looking at a dirty magazine, rubbing on himself.
Fuck is wrong with people? God damn it, dude.
Don't make me laugh.
Well, somebody's gonna break them this shit. It's so
Holy,
sad.
dude, it's terrible.
It's
We're
so
gonna get so
rough.
much hate for making jokes out of this shit.
It's so... We're not making the no. We're not making fun of the accusers. We're making fun of the accusee.
They're not accusers, they're victims, fuckhead.
Well, allegedly, we only have
No,
one count
they're not
apparently.
alleged victims, dog. They're all dead. That makes them victims.
Oh yeah, it does make them victims, doesn't
Fucking idiot.
it? Allegedly.
No, you're not allegedly an idiot. We just proved it.
No, I'm saying we don't. They only have the one proof of
That's
him
one.
killing, so we
There's one
don't.
conviction. That's just one
Yeah,
conviction.
that's what I'm saying though. So we don't. It's like you can't. It takes at least two guys to hold down ostrich.
Are we being
Allegedly.
so fucking for real right now? Again?
Allegedly.
Okay.
If it was sick.
I don't think so. But we're gonna move on before we get real fucking deep into that.
I've heard three man to hold down a healthy ostrich.
Mhm.
Can't take anything serious.
However, that day in August, Aykroyd headed straight for Weston. He announced that he'd found Kay's remains in the nearby woods while hunting rabbits with his dog. Except as a seasoned hunter, he must have known the area was an unlikely choice for spotting rabbits. He stated, "I'm in real trouble. I was the last person to see her alive." Alarmed, Weston went to get her husband, who called the state police. Aykroyd led investigators into the brush about a half a mile off the road where Kay had gone running the previous winter. Investigators thought it was odd. A hunter would likely overlook the bits of cloth and bone as nothing more than trash and animal carcasses. What had led Aykroyd to conclude the items in the ponderosa pine thicket were Kay's? Forensic experts and search and rescue workers spent nearly a week looking for her remains. They found her lower jawbone, yellow shorts, a scrap from her blue pullover, her underwear, and a remnant of the heel from one of her Nikes. They found the other sneaker mostly intact. Kay's gold watch with the vinyl band was there too. Something like a struggle had knocked out the stem, stopping the watch. The time and date stood still, 9:27 a.m. on December 24th.
Date relevant.
Fucking clock that.
Noted.
As investigators scoured the woods for clues, a state police trooper rested against a tree. He glanced skyward. High in the lush canopy, he noticed a bird's nest perched on a branch. Something was tangled in the twigs and sticks. It was Kay's blonde hair. Aykroyd became the prime suspect in Kay's abduction and murder. Investigators' suspicions deepened as his story began to shift.
I thought you were going to fuck that up again. I thought you were going to say as their stories began to shit. And I was kind of just, I really thought you were good. I thought you were going to smoke that, dude.
You were.
And then you
I
nailed
saw
it.
you do the whole because you were gonna try and hold that giggle in. I went
That
with it.
was, I'm thankful you got through that. That was good. I'm proud of you for that.
Well, see, I've read this so many times that I knew it was coming up that I slowed down. If you noticed my cadence change up there.
Yeah, we had a little speed change up. And then
Yeah.
you're in charge also. So we know it's going to be a two-parter, so I'll let you decide where the good climactic point to leave people hanging is going to be.
So there's five main parts and then kind of a like an epilogue. So we can break
Right.
it up,
So
maybe.
yeah, break it up and then we'll just go through part two once we hit after three. After three.
Because there's six total parts, butt plug.
Well, yeah, that works out. That's perfect then.
Stupid ass.
I am a stupid ass. Shut up.
All right. Are you ready to continue?
Always.
Sorry, I had a chokey there. Initially, he told police he passed Kay without stopping. Now he admitted he'd not only stopped, but also had spoken with her. Over time, Aykroyd added incriminating details to his account. In one stunning development, he revealed that he'd seen Kay's decomposing remains 2 months after her disappearance, but never thought to call the police. He said her body was lying in the same wooded area where scraps of her clothing and bits of bone were found. Her breast had been punctured by a bullet and her throat was slashed. He claimed he'd reached down to touch the slain woman's arm and hair. The gruesome details implicated Aykroyd to suggest to investigators that he'd returned to Camp Sherman weeks after the killing to check on Kay's remains. Aykroyd disclosed yet another curious detail. He hadn't been alone on Christmas Eve morning. He said he was with his friend and hunting companion, Roger Dale Beck. The men at first said they'd hunted coyotes, but later changed their stories to say they were poaching deer. Despite all the tantalizing coincidences and Aykroyd's apparent eagerness to place himself at the scene of a crime, or the crime, investigators could find no physical evidence definitively linking him to the killing. He steadfastly maintained his innocence, admitting only that he had seen Kay that morning and found her remains.
Kind of his idea was like, I'm going to like try to get out one crime by like admitting to a different crime of lesser value. Is that kind of, he was like,
Um,
we were just poaching.
yeah. So he's trying to
That's
just
why I
he's
lied.
trying to justify his knowledge of the crime scene by saying that he was committing a different crime, which is a lesser crime than the murder, and that's how he's
Trying to
trying
weasel his
to
way out of
explain
this
his
shit.
way out of knowing where she was.
Freaking believable.
Uh, then a confession by an already convicted murderer sidetracked detectives before they determined that he was lying.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah, somebody trying to take credit for it, man. Eventually, the investigation stalled and Aykroyd returned to the periphery. It seems remarkable in hindsight that he managed to elude police despite such compelling circumstantial evidence and his rape a year earlier of another woman off of Highway 20. Aykroyd went on working for the state, responding to broken down cars, clearing wrecks, and fixing state rigs along the highway alone. Aykroyd married a local woman named Linda, and they lived with her young kids, Byron and Rashonda Beck. Byron and Rashonda.
Okay.
Beck, his buddy that was in the poaching with him, moved from Oregon and was later convicted of a sex crime in Minnesota, served 7 months in prison, and then moved to California. Kay Turner Kay Turner's killing became a faded memory, and her case remained unsolved, and detectives moved on.
Well, they
Then,
didn't think it was unsolved because the dickhead admitted to it, right?
yeah, so Aykroyd and Beck were the ones that claimed to be there poaching, and that's how they knew she was there.
Yeah, but then some other killer came out and said he did it,
And
right?
then they determined that he was lying, and their focus went back to Aykroyd
Oh, okay.
before they couldn't get enough evidence gathered to convict.
Gotcha.
It was every piece of evidence they had against Aykroyd and Beck was all
Mhm.
considered circumstantial, so they couldn't use it to convict.
Yeah, and at this time they didn't have like DNA evidence and all that fun stuff.
Right.
And at that time they would have called that circumstantial too, because they're like, it's technology and technology's wild.
Right. So there's a lot of things that haven't been introduced at the time of this investigation.
Right.
Right. Yeah, so her murder became a faded memory, and the case remained unsolved, and detectives moved on. Then Rashonda Pickle, Aykroyd's 13-year-old stepdaughter, disappears. Rashonda Pickle's stepfather could turn angry in a flash. Once, when a clock fell off of a shelf, he beat her with a homemade paddle. When the paddle snapped, he smacked her repeatedly with his open hand. At other times, friends saw her with a black eye and a wound from where he'd ripped out a patch of her hair. The family lived at the State Highway Division compound at Santiam Junction, where US 20 and Oregon 22 meet. Stockpiles of cinder rocks towered near the buildings inside the complex. Plows stood ready to rumble onto the highway and go through the mountain passes during winter storms. And it is a 30-minute drive to the nearest store to buy milk. So they're pretty isolated in a desolate area.
Just
Right?
down bum F middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And then it has intersections of two of Oregon's major highways.
Right.
So
Always a hot spot for stuff like this, actually.
yeah, it's set in the scenery, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry about the face block there, bud.
Yeah, you're blocking away. It's all right.
Can't help it.
You can get put them hater blocks on sometimes, you know?
Yeah, you do at times. All right, where the fuck am I?
Wherever you left off.
You called it. Here we are. Found it. Couldn't have done it without you, dickhead.
You're welcome.
A dozen or so work crews call the junction home. Very few kids lived there, and the ones that did were not Rashonda's age. John Aykroyd had an unusual arrangement with Rashonda's mother, Linda. The couple married in the mid 1980s, but divorced after only a year. They continued to live together, raising Linda's two kids, Rashonda and her older brother, Byron. Rashonda was a good kid, helped around the house and taking care not to stay too far. She rode her bike in the lane just outside of their door and took a bus to grade school in Sweet Home. She listened to pop stars Debbie Gibson and Wilson Phillips in her bedroom and teased her brother, who was her protector and playground companion. Her family called her Channy. To some, she seemed lost, almost invisible. When parent conferences rolled around, nobody would show up. In fifth grade, something had shifted. She seemed withdrawn and tired. In class, she counted down the minutes, a sense of dread rising as the end of the school day would approach. She confided in two girls who were sisters. She cried as she told one of them that she was terrified of returning to the junction alone. She'd asked if she could sleep over on one occasion and had made a scene when it was time to go. Another time, they had snuck her into their bedroom closet, and the sisters knew why. She was afraid. Aykroyd was molesting Rashonda. On the morning of July 10th, Rashonda woke up to help her mother get ready for the day. She had braided her mom's hair, then settled onto the couch to watch cartoons while in her pajamas. Linda and John both left for work. Linda was a housekeeper at Black Butt Ranch, or Butte, depending on.
Probably Butte. That's probably more appropriate.
It's whatever.
But
I knew it
Butte,
was Butte. I was just trying to save my ass because I read butt and then just kept going.
that's where I like. That's good. That's
I'll,
clever.
I'll own it.
It's butt. But now
A
rest of the
resort.
show.
Oh,
Back to the Black Butt Resort.
okay. Oh, fucking lost in this goddamn novel I have written here.
Fucking Riz. The Resort.
Found it. A resort community about 30 minutes away, and John was a highway mechanic, and they weren't expected back until late afternoon. Her mother left behind a short list of chores: load the dishwasher, vacuum the house, take the hot dogs out of the freezer. Later that morning, the door to the house opened unexpectedly. John Aykroyd was back. Rashonda was never seen again. Aykroyd spun the same story from then on. I'm on the struggle bus right now, buddy.
Yeah, I know, but you're almost through part 3 probably.
Yeah, we're getting there.
You just gotta get through it, you know what I mean?
I know the pressure is so fucking on.
It's overwhelming.
Extremely overwhelming, but here we go. You ready? He dropped Linda off at the resort and continued east on Highway 20 to the state maintenance shop in Bend. He planned to fix snowplows, but decided to take the day off after he learned that the parts had not arrived. A claim that baffled his supervisor, who said there was plenty of work to keep Aykroyd busy. He said he returned home to find his stepdaughter under a blanket on the couch. The television was on, and the family kittens were curled up on the girl's lap. He claimed he invited her to join him on a drive to photograph deer on the back roads near Junction. Rashonda declined, saying that she still had chores her mother expected her to finish. He then claimed that he left. By his account, Rashonda was gone when he returned a couple of hours later. Aykroyd did little to look for her and later picked Linda up from work. When the couple pulled into the compound that evening, Rashonda wasn't hanging around outside like she normally was. The home showed no signs of foul play, and Rashonda's green nightgown was on her bedroom floor. Her mother noticed the girl's hairbrush, makeup, and earrings were all still there. The dishes weren't in the dishwasher, and the floor wasn't vacuumed. The girl, who was good about leaving notes if she had left to go play with friends or went to a neighbor's house, didn't leave a note. The couple ate, then they had sex, which is significant because they almost never did. Aykroyd's low libido was the source of such open conflict that even Linda's teenage son Byron knew of that trouble. Aykroyd would later tell detectives the sex was great. Linda would later question Aykroyd as the darkness enveloped the highway compound. Where is she? You should know, you were with her. He claimed he didn't know. He told Linda to wait until the next day to call the police. The next morning, Rashonda, still missing, and Linda called 911. She was calm as she told the dispatcher that her daughter, a homebody, had gone missing. When the dispatcher asked why she hadn't called sooner, Linda said she assumed that she had to wait 24 hours to report a missing person. The dispatcher told Linda that is not true, not when it comes to children. The dispatcher asked Linda if she knew who the last person was to see Rashonda. Linda's reply was very matter of fact when she replied, her stepdad. Police swarmed the highway compound. Word that Aykroyd's stepdaughter had vanished spread quickly. The neighboring Jefferson County to the neighboring Jefferson County, where Kay Turner had been killed more than a decade earlier. Bill Hanlon, the district attorney in Jefferson County, wasn't surprised when the call came from a prosecutor in Lynn County, where Aykroyd had lived. Hanlon, who'd spent his career practicing law in rural, holy fuck, Oregon, knew of Aykroyd from reading a slim 3-ring binder stashed in a cardboard box left behind by his predecessor. He pored over Aykroyd's police interviews from 1979, when the highway worker admitted he was the last person to see Kay Turner. He knew it was Aykroyd who had eventually led police to her remains. The DA knew Aykroyd had changed his story and admitted he had talked to Kay the morning he encountered her on a run. So when he was asked on the phone from Lynn County investigators, "Do you know of John Aykroyd?" his reply, "Sure, I know of John Aykroyd. He killed Kay Turner." The very next day, Hanlon hopped in a car with a Jefferson County deputy for a briefing on the search for Rashonda. The men drove to Santiam Junction slowly as they passed the compound where Aykroyd's manufactured home was backed up into the woods. There was Aykroyd standing on the back of his Ford pickup truck. He was painting the tailgate. Hanlon's only thought was he was covering Hanlon's only thought was that he's covering his crimes. This time, the DA and the cops, who believed Aykroyd had gotten away with Kay Turner's killings, were determined to get the highway worker off the street. Forget.
You're there.
I wrote this fucking thing too, dog.
You're there, man.
You
You
imagine
got
if
this.
somebody else did this?
It'd be just as well, I think.
Aykroyd didn't seem bothered that Rashonda was gone, and spoke about his missing stepdaughter in a way that no panicked parent ever would. He rattled off the girl's weight and bra size, but couldn't remember what her birthday was. He thought that she was very pretty and noticed that she had begun to develop.
The fuck kind of. Yeah, that tells you about everything you need to know about the guy.
Doesn't it though?
Yep.
How do you not know your stepdaughter's birthday, but you can know her bra size and
And you're like, she's turned into quite a young, attractive lady.
yeah, like how is that anything that you'd ever say to anybody about somebody that you're supposed to be a parent to, you know?
Yeah, any sort of caring relationship with.
I don't understand it, but some people are fucked.
Yeah, this guy's up there.
Over the course of the investigation, he acted strangely. He appeared to become sexually aroused when shown a pair of pants that police had found in the woods and initially suspected belonged to Rashonda. He basked in the attention from police. He even pretended to aid in the fruitless search for the girl. Aykroyd's grim speculation about the harm that had likely come to Rashonda echoed gory stories like the ones he replayed over and over while watching Friday the 13th and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Once he invited neighbors over to watch horror movies, becoming so animated over scenes of women being chopped up that he'd hit rewind again and again. His friends had become sick at the sight and left. He had stated out loud if Rashonda had been dumped and buried in the woods, or threatened with a knife, tied up and gagged, her body rolled into plastic. He told police maybe it was the girl's development that drew a predator to the junction.
The fucking guy that did it. Yeah, makes fucking sense.
Yeah, it's
Good lord, dude.
I like that doesn't tell you what you need to know about this man. I don't know what would, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what else you can say about the guy. I mean, like, I genuinely don't. That should pretty well put it out there.
Yeah. He suggested that somebody could have just come in, knocked her over the head, thrown her over their shoulders, and just walked out without anybody seeing her. Maybe they just walked in, seen the opportunity, and grabbed at it.
Wonder who it could have been.
Mm-hmm. The officers assigned to interrogate Aykroyd were direct. Aykroyd had hurt Rashonda, stuffed her into a garbage bag, and hauled her away. Lynn County Sheriff's Detective Jim Salisbury said during one of their interviews. His partner, Detective Will McCulty, sat nearby. The men spent hours talking to Aykroyd. By now, investigators knew who they were dealing with. Aykroyd would recycle the same stories. They kept their expressions in check, rarely raising their voices as they combed fine details for any new revelations. For a man suspected of murder, Aykroyd was impassive under intense grilling by Salisbury and McCulty. Occasionally, Aykroyd would reach for one of the fireball candies that he carried in his pocket. At one point, during an interrogation, he said, "You know, both of you sitting there pointing your fingers at me, and I didn't do nothing. Didn't do nothing to K. Gene Turner." McCulty questioned, "No. You didn't do anything to Channy either?" And Aykroyd said, "No." McCulty asked, "Didn't do anything to anybody else?" And Aykroyd answered with agitation, "No, what do you think I am? A sadistic killer? Goes around killing people? Taking girls off somewhere? I did not do nothing. At the wrong place at the wrong time." "A bunch of times," said McNulty. "Twice," Aykroyd snapped back. "Twice that we know of," said McCulty. "Wasn't it strange that he was the last person to see Kay and Rashonda alive? You could win the lottery 4 or 5 times before something like that could ever happen," Salisbury said. The interview sputtered to a halt within months. Without a body or physical evidence implicating Aykroyd, so did the investigation. But they knew Aykroyd was the killer. They had to get him. They returned to Kay Turner. Detectives dug into Kay's murder once more and soon stumbled on their biggest breakthrough. It started when a supervisor in Lynn County Sheriff's Office assigned McNulty to organize press clippings from the earlier days of the investigation. It was the kind of menial task that you give a rookie detective. McCulty, who had been promoted to detective just 10 days earlier, dutifully examined old newspaper articles and reports. He read about how Aykroyd had been with an old hunting buddy on the morning of Kay's murder. That friend? Roger Dale Beck. Beck and his wife lived in a trailer not far from Camp Sherman where Kay had disappeared. His wife, Pam, said the two men were around the trailer for most of the morning, which helped give Aykroyd an alibi. Beck and Pam had since divorced and Pam had moved to California. McCulty wondered if an ex-wife might see the events of a distant past in a different light now. He talked his boss into letting him drive the 750 miles to California and find out. By then, Beck's 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 ex-wife had lost touch with Aykroyd but remained fond of him. The two had history that extended all the way to childhood. When she was 12 years old, Aykroyd tattooed his initials into her arm. 2 years later, at the age of 14, she was married to Beck. Time had fogged her memory, but on one point she was very clear. The men ordered her to lie if police asked where they were that morning. "I lied like hell back then," she admitted. "The truth is this." This is her statement. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
On Christmas Eve morning, Aykroyd showed up at the house. They ate and left to go poach deer, not returning until the next day. Their clothes were spattered with so much blood that she got rid of Beck's jeans and shirt. Later, the men had told her that they had mistaken Kay for a deer and fatally shot her. Over time, the story took on even darker tones. Kay had been raped and shot, Beck told Pam. She said he threatened to do to me exactly what they did to Kay Turner. By early 1992, investigators were closing in on Aykroyd. He'd returned to Sweet Home to live with his mother and split for good with Linda with Linda after Rashonda's disappearance. Aykroyd was transferred out of Santiam Junction, where his connection to the case and his behavior made women uncomfortable. Aykroyd worked out of Corvallis and continued to roam the highway. Sometime after he moved, Aykroyd was in his truck with the daughter of an old friend. She spotted two young women she knew. Aykroyd stopped. She introduced the women to him, and they climbed in. Melissa Sanders was 17 and from Sweet Home. Sheila Swanson was 19 and from nearby Lebanon. They were restless and broke, living an in itinerant existence.
This gives me anxiety.
Clock it. Drinking too much and keeping dangerous company. Most nights, the pair could be found at Sherry's Inn in Lebanon, where teens and adults gathered to talk on CB radios and drink coffee. Aykroyd, too, hung out there. He was drawn to Melissa and Sheila, making a point to chat them up. At the same time, a dozen investigators working the Turner case seized on Aykroyd's shifting accounts. They pressed him again and again about his interactions with Kay. Cops went to search a storage unit Aykroyd had rented the year before, only to find that he had cleared it out days earlier. Aykroyd was a prime suspect, and he knew it. A grand jury would hear the case. His arrest was imminent. However, within weeks, Melissa and Sheila were dead.
Can't imagine how in the fuck that happened.
Yeah.
I just can't.
No. So, you want to do one more part?
No, I think we leave it there. I mean, let's cut people at an hour.
Yeah. So
Leave you hanging, and then hopefully you come back next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the week after the week after.
Yeah. To get part 2 of, what is this? The Ghost of Highway 20.
The Ghost of Highway 20.
That, though, my friends, will wrap it up. And like we said at the beginning of the show, if you have been raped, or you know somebody's been raped, or you need help with anything dealing with, sexual abuse, trauma, anything like that, be sure to reach out to that number that Gabe mentioned. Find your local rape and domestic abuse. Find somebody that you can talk to and confide in, and genuinely take care of yourself. Find the resources you need. Don't be afraid to reach out, even though that's hard. But make sure that you do it. We do care about you, and it's not something that we take lightly, in spite of making jokes and trying to lighten up the mood when we do these. But that being said, what have you taken so far out of this episode?
I refuse to share my thoughts because I know more than you do.
That's equally valid.
And I don't want to say shit
Ruin
that
it.
I already know and fuck it for everybody.
Yeah, so we'll leave it at that, and I'll just leave it at this. This guy's a sadistic, absolute crazy man. And as smart as these guys always seem to think they are, he's an absolute dumbass. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you would have put it in today's standards, like they'd have had this guy hot on the spot. You know what I mean? Like from the rape, they'd had him because of, evidence and everything. Like this guy's an idiot.
So I'm a firm believer that this guy would have been locked up, convicted, and registered after the first crime that he committed, and potentially none of these other crimes would have happened.
I mean, it's Oregon, so he probably would have gotten like 6 months in probation for it, but
Well, that's today. In 1978, that wasn't the same case.
yeah, if they'd had the evidence of collecting that they have now, then he'd have been caught. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's take that into account. When the original crime happened, it was 1978. It wasn't 2021 where everything was turned into a fucking war.
Yeah, that's fair. He lives in the Chaz, bro.
Yeah. What are they fucking Camp Chopper or whatever they called that shit?
Yeah, it was the Chaz, man. It was the Chaz.
Chaz. Do that shit.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that before all that shit went down, I just stopped fucking with like news and media because like,
Oh, you'd been heated.
brother, I can't do that kind of shit no more. I'm
I
too
can't either. I try to ignore the news and quit watching all the bad things going on. I'm right there with you.
so unbothered by the whole thing that like people get upset that I don't actually
You're not
fucking.
following.
They'll be like, "What do you think about this?" And I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing until you just said it.
Equally fair. Equally
Right?
fair.
And clearly, like that time frame, there was a lot going on in like the political climate. There was a lot going on in the world. There was a lot going on with CDC and all that kind of stuff. So people had to pay a little bit more attention to media and all that.
Right, right.
I just never invested any effort or time into giving a fuck. Like I would get on and be like, "Do I have to wear a mask today?" Yes, I do. Moving on.
Okay. Yeah. Continue on. Carry on as you would.
Yeah, that's my life. I'm wearing a mask again today, and I will move on with my day. And that was
Yeah.
as far as I got.
Yeah. And I was still like, I'm not wearing a mask. I screw you guys. You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't live in an area where people were
Bold.
um, had built-in purifiers around their necks, dog.
Oh, yeah. That's fair.
I lived in a largely habitated metropolitan area where if you fucking farted on the street still wearing a mask, people would attack you.
That's fair. It's
You're
reasonable.
you're spreading it from both ends, motherfucker.
We're going to get the COVID farts.
Yeah, so there's that.
That's biological warfare, brother.
And it was not that I was out just farting on the streets, but
Sounds like you
yeah,
were now, so that's all that matters.
examples needed to be made. Okay,
Yeah, somebody had to
examples.
learn.
Somebody had to learn. Somebody had to learn. But
That being said, we'll wrap up this week. It's been a fun, not really fun week, actually. Thank you. That
yeah,
was,
that's what you want to say. That's what you want to end this with.
well, that was brutal. No, that was a brutal episode so far,
And you
but
want to come after me
I'm
for the shit that
intrigued.
goes out of my mouth.
I'm intrigued by where this is going. So, it was fun in the fact that we're learning. It was not so fun in the fact that the entire story is just awful. Uh, yeah. That being said, I'll let you close it out.
So yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of it. Um, Giving me positive feedback about my camera etiquette. I do appreciate that. I don't know if you noticed my subconscious of raising it and then hurrying and dropping it.
Yeah,
Did you catch those?
I did. I did.
Perfect. Perfect. So yeah, unfortunately for you and the listener, this story does not get any better.
No, which is a bummer. But that being said, you can find our other stories that are a little bit more lighthearted and fun and a lot more life lessons over on Spotify, uh, iTunes, Amazon. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, and give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review or whatever you can. And if you have any tips, feel free to shoot us an email, and
Leave us
we're happy to listen and take pointers and learn.
leave us comments. Let us know what you like and what you don't like, and if you have stories or you have things that you want us to talk about, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that, we would like to thank you once more, and this is us signing off. I've been Gabe, and that's been
Derek, and we are out of here. Thank you,
bye.
guys.